Hi, I'm Miyoko Schinner. Today I'll be showing you how tasty, colorful, and inviting a completely vegan Thanksgiving dinner can be. Thanksgiving is celebrated here in the United States, usually with a large family-style meal. Today we're going to start out by making a wonderful pumpkin soup that'll be served in these cute little pumpkins as soup bowls. For that we're going to require the pumpkins, some vegetable stock or chickenless chicken stock, an onion, some nutmeg for seasoning, some sea salt, and some raw cashew nuts. Okay, well let's get cooking here. Alright, what I've got here are 10 cute little pumpkins that are available just around this time of year. And I went ahead and I just pre-baked them. Stick these into the oven for about 30 minutes at 350 degrees. That pre-bakes them and makes it easy to remove the tops and the insides. So this is the pre-baked pumpkin, okay? And what we're going to do is take the seeds out first, which is right here in the middle. Don't want the seeds in there. So you can just use a spoon to sort of scrape the seeds out. Get all that gooey stuff out as well too. And what we're going to do is use the meat of the squash for the soup. Okay, so now I find it really easy to use an ice cream scooper to get the flesh out, because it's got a sharper edge than a spoon. And I can just go like that. And you want to get as much of the meat out as possible without puncturing a hole in the skin, because this is going to be the soup bowl. If I've got 8 guests, I always buy about 10 of these, because I know that I'm going to ruin 1 or 2 of them. You've got to be really, really gentle with that. So, yeah, just going to scrape this out again and try to be as gentle as possible. Just go along the edge like this. Get as much of the meat out as possible without puncturing a hole in the wall of the pumpkin. Okay, there we go. And you should have between 2½ and 3 cups of pumpkin meat when you're done. All right, so now we're going to start sauteing an onion. So we're going to need that pot.
All right.
And I'm going to slice up an onion here. We're going to saute the onion in a little bit of vegetable broth instead of oil. You know, try to save a few calories where we can. So I'm just going to pour a little bit of vegetable stock in there, just enough to prevent the onions from sticking. All right, and then we'll get the onions in there. And I'm going to just put a lid on it. This will sort of steam saute it and cook the onions faster. And we'll let that go for about 10 minutes until they're nice and tender.
Okay.
And then we'll come back and put the pumpkin in there and all the other ingredients.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, so while we're waiting for the onions to cook, I thought we'd get started on the other dish, which is a phyllo pouch stuffed with caramelized onions, roasted vegetables, and quinoa, and that'll be the main course. Okay?
Yum.
We've got 3 kinds of vegetables we're going to roast: turnips, butternut squash, and fennel. We have onions that we're going to caramelize, some quinoa that we're going to cook, and all of that is going to be enrobed in a phyllo pouch, which will bake and get golden and crispy, and we'll serve it with a nice gravy. Oh, I forgot to mention one ingredient: fresh sage from my garden, which gives a wonderful Thanksgiving flavor to anything you put it in. All right? So I'm going to get started by, do you want to help me do this too?
Sure, I'd love to.
You want to slice some onions while I work on the vegetables? You're going to slice 2 onions for me that we're going to caramelize, and I'm going to get started on the butternut squash and get that roasting in the oven. Now, I've pre-baked the butternut squash for about 15 minutes just because it makes it a lot easier to get the skin off. So now I've got the butternut squash. I'm going to remove the skin, and then we're going to dice it up. Right into my composter. Oh, okay. So you did it the round onion ring way. Let's do 1 more onion. Let me. Okay. So this is how you slice an onion. You cut the ends off and kind of keep the root together, so it's not. It doesn't come apart. Keep the slices together. And you cut the onion in half, and then you can slice it. Put your fingers like this, tuck them in, and you can control how you how thinly you slice them if they're cut in half already. For caramelizing, we want them all to be about the same thinness. Yeah. Okay. We got to stir this too.
Oh, yep.
Just a dash so they don't stick. All right, I'm going to go back to the butternut squash here. Okay, so I've got the butternut squash diced up, the turnips diced up, and I'm going to get the fennel going here. So I've got one fennel bulb. Get that sliced up. When you roast these vegetables, it really concentrates the flavor. It caramelizes them. We've got the sweet richness of the butternut squash, sort of that savory complexity of the turnips, and then we've got the fennel, which has this sort of marvelous, complex sweetness. So the three of them, along with the caramelized onions and the quinoa, it's a great combination. We're going to caramelize these onions that you've chopped up here, that you've sliced. And in order to caramelize, I do have to use a little bit of oil. It really helps to caramelize them. So I've got, you can use canola oil. This is olive oil. It really doesn't matter. So get a tablespoon or two in a hot pan. Get the oil nice and hot before we add the onions, all right? So now we're going to get the onions in there. And you should hear that little sizzle. That means that the oil is nice and hot and ready to go. And we're going to give it a sprinkling of sea salt. All right. Get out my giant chopsticks. Give that a stir, and we're going to let this cook for a few minutes until about 20 minutes or so, until they're nice and reduced and brown and caramelized. So we have the onion that we've been sauteing until nice and tender in this pot. Okay. And now we're ready to add the pumpkin meat.
Okay.
Okay. So if you can put that in there, that would be great. All of it can go in there.
Great. Okay.
All right. And we need about 3 to 4 cups of vegetable or vegetarian chicken stock. There is a recipe for it in my cookbook, in the new Nowens and Epicure. Now we're going to put the lid back on and cook this mixture until the pumpkin is nice and tender. And then we're going to puree it with some cashew cream and season it with a little bit of nutmeg. And our soup will be ready to serve. Okay? All right, in the meantime, we want to get these vegetables in the oven roasting. Okay. So to season them, all we really have to do is add a little bit of sea salt and some olive oil and toss them. So when you roast vegetables, you want to make sure that the vegetables are not piled up in a mound, but that they're spread out in one layer or so they have a chance to caramelize on all sides. Just toss it like that. Okay, I'm ready to get the vegetables in the oven. The turnips, the butternut squash, and the fennel. They're going to roast for about 20 to 25 minutes at 450 degrees. All right, now we're going to cook the quinoa while they're roasting.
Great.
I'm going to need that pot. Okay. And I have a cup of quinoa here. And we're going to cook that with about 2 cups of vegetable stock. All right. And I think you've got some stock right there. Just throw that right in there.
Okay, great.
Okay, we're going to bring the quinoa to a boil and then turn it down to a simmer, and that'll cook for about 20 minutes. And then we'll be ready to assemble the pouches.
Great.
Okay?
Great.
And I have to prepare the cream, the heavy cream, to enrich the soup. And the way we're going to do that is use cashews. Now, cashews are a fabulous heavy cream substitute because they're rich and they're creamy and they thicken things beautifully. So I have about a cup of cashews here. I have a high-speed blender, so I don't need to soak the cashews, but if you have a regular old blender, you may want to soak the cashews in water for a few hours and drain them before using them in this sauce, because it'll puree better and they won't be gritty at all. They'll be creamy and smooth and wonderful. All right, so I've got about 3 cups of water in here. The ratio for making cashew cream is 1 part cashews, 3 parts water. All right, the cashew cream is ready. Look at that. Looks like milk or heavy cream, right? And that's going to help thicken our soup, and we're also going to make our gravy out of that too. Okay, so let's check the soup here. The pumpkin. I think it's ready to puree. All right, I'm going to start putting it right here in the blender.
Okay.
And since I'm going to use cashew cream, I don't really need to wash it out.
Right.
I just put it directly in there. You know, people think you have to have turkey for Thanksgiving, but there's so many other ways to make it festive. Like these little pumpkins, they're so festive. And these phyllo pouches that we're going to make are really, really festive too. You just want to have the flavors of Thanksgiving, which are pumpkins and sage and onions and all that wonderful savory goodness. You don't have to kill an animal.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to turn this on. All right. Now we're ready to finish the soup. I'm going to pour it back in here. Okay, now I'm going to enrich the soup with a little bit of this cashew cream. Pour this in here. And I'm just going to set this aside until it's ready to serve. All right. A little grating of nutmeg in there. Nutmeg's another really holiday flavor. I can just add that sort of festive appeal.
And we are doing what many families do every Thanksgiving, which is spending the whole day in the kitchen.
That's right. We are exactly
Having a
doing that.
blast.
Absolutely.
Just
all right.
no turkeys.
That's right. No turkeys. Well, there are turkeys running around the hills here, wild ones. Okay.
We'll be back on Wednesday, November 23rd to complete this decadent vegan Thanksgiving feast with renowned chef Miyoko Shinner. We will then join some guests to have a taste of colorful, compassionate cuisine that both humans and animals can be thankful for this holiday season. See you soon on Vegetarianism, the Noble Way of Living, here on Supreme Master Television. Between Master and Disciples is coming up next, wishing you nature's bounty and tranquility. Interested in more of Miyoko Shinner's impressive vegan recipes? Please visit www.amazon.com to purchase her cookbooks, The New Now and Zen Epicure, Gourmet Vegan Recipes for the Enlightened Palate, and Japanese Cooking, Contemporary and Traditional.
For more details, please visit www.suprememastertv.com/veg.